Hi, welcome to Old School New School podcast, a new podcast that brings the different generations together to talk about the different issues that we face in society. So my guests today, I will allow them to introduce themselves, but let me introduce myself first. My name is Effa. I'm a communications intern at Education as a Vaccine. And on my right,
Dr. Shegun Edeji. I work for the Shegun and Global Ventures as a principal health consultant.
I am Wisdom, the head of legal department at Girls Get Equal.
Okay, and then online we have Mr. Cyprian.
My name is Cyprian Nartis Komba. I work with the NYP Plus and Pan-African Women in Tanzania. Thank you.
Okay, so the topic for today's podcast is youths in leadership and governance. And we'll be talking about how we can create spaces for youth while honoring the experience and power dynamics of the older generation. So first of all, I would like to ask Dr. Shegun, what did leadership look like in your time?
Leadership in my time was pretty straightforward, plenty of respect for those who are there before you, and was very structured. So you rise through the rank. It's not a situation where you just come in and then you want to take over immediately. And of course, we had people who are highly respected, and a lot of people look up to them. And they were, I don't want to use the word demigods, but they were highly respected and reputable people then. And leadership for us was about ensuring that people do much better than you. So you inspire them to do much better than yourself. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Do you have how do you think leadership looks like now for us, the younger generation?
I think it's slightly different for us now.
Yeah.
I think during their time, it was more about titles. But now people can be leaders in different ways. It's a digital generation. So someone with a community online is a leader. So it just appears in different ways.
Okay, and how old were you when you first felt like you could speak up and be heard?
I think I would say 10, 11 in secondary school. I've never been one to be big on titles, but I noticed that when I speak, people actually listen. So from a very young age, I've always been one who could talk in public, and then things could happen when I speak.
Okay. Mr. Cyprian, we're in different countries right now. So how would you say leadership looks like in your country?
You are asking how do we say leadership in my country, right?
Yes.
If I've got you right, because the voice is not coming clear.
Okay. How does leadership look like in your country?
How is the leadership? The leadership is like, in my country, the leadership is like, we have those people who have power to make decisions on the behalf of other people who are kind of literal, we do call them the honorable, standing on behalf of other people at the top to just decide and also plan things on the behalf of the other people. This is how the leadership looks like in my country. But a leader is someone who, in my country, someone who is committed, someone who can do the work for the benefit of the community, but also who can feedback and consult the community, right?
Okay, thank you. Then it's not that different from leadership in Nigeria as well. So why do we think that younger people are demanding more seats at the table now, Dr. Shegun?
Yeah, they are demanding for more because they want their voices to be heard. Yes, that is nice. However, I think the way they are going about it is more of the issue of entitlement. Right. So, yes, you want to be there. We understand that you want to be there on the table because they bring fresh perspective, new innovations. Then there are more representation of the younger ones and their voice can be heard. And of course, the enthusiasm they can bring onto it, that'll be really exciting. However, you cannot push the older ones aside and say you want to take over. You will need to be very patient, learn from the older ones. We need the enthusiasm, we need the strength of the youth, but then the wisdom of the older ones cannot be brushed aside. So for them to move on, they should be very patient. learn from the older ones, why they are bringing their own new, fresh perspectives, and in a way that there is not confrontational. Assertiveness does not mean that you have to be confrontational. It means just setting your boundary and say, this is what we want, and then providing evidence that you can actually hold those positions. It's not just enough to say you are a young person, so they should just give you that. No, it doesn't work that way. What are those things you are bringing on board? So you must bring a lot of new ideas, new innovations, things that are tested, that we can say, we can point to and say, okay, yes, we can actually bring the young ones on board. Thank you.
You look like you had something to say.
I have a lot to say. Okay, first, the question was, why do you think young people... I think there's an adage that, I don't know how it's said directly, but you can't barb someone's head in their absence. Now, governance is not just making decisions for the now. It's also making decisions for the future, a future that affects me. So how do you think you can plan for the future that's going to affect me more when I am not there? And he said something about it being nice to have young people. And I think that's the problem we have. We are looking at it from two different perspectives. They feel like when you have younger people on board, you are being, what's the word now? You're being nice to them. You shouldn't be here, but I think it's nice to have you here. But that's not it. We should be there because this affects us. This is our future we are working towards. So why are you planning for a future that I will not be there? And why do you think it's some sort of favor to have me there? I actually deserve a seat on the table because we are having discussions. We are trying to collaborate to create a future that is beneficial to both of us, more for me because by natural order, I'm going to be there longer than you are there.
So do you have...
Staying on being longer than the older ones, death comes at any time. The young people die, the old people die. So the fact that you are young does not mean you are going to be there forever. And the truth of the matter is this. The young ones need to be on the table. Perfectly right. However, how you get about that, you want to put yourself on that table is very important. You cannot say, let all the old ones die and then I will take over. It should never happen. Because the expertise, the wisdom, the experience that the older ones have, the younger ones don't have it. So they need to learn. But insisting that you must just come on board and take over, it won't work that way. Be patient. It is a learning process, learning curve, and you will get there. So, but we want them there because it's very nice, because they can actually put things on the table for themselves, for their peers, which is very important. But then we're not saying they should not be on the table. They should be on the table. However, they should not wish the older ones dead so that they can be on the table.
Nobody's wishing the older ones to be dead. Nobody's asking to take over. We're simply saying, give us a seat at the table. That's all we're saying.
But then if you want a seat on the table, then you have to fight for it. It is not an entitlement thing to say, because I'm a young person, I must just be there. We need to see exemplary lifestyle. Look at what's happening now with a lot of the young ones onto drugs and so many things. A lot of the things that are happening around the crime, it's the younger ones, not the older ones. But then we do know that it's not, we can't stereotype and say all the old young ones are criminals, all the young ones are. But what we're saying, the older ones are saying is, please learn the ropes from those who have been there. And then it will be easy. We have a lot of young people now. In the Oyo State House of Assembly, the speaker is a young person. He went there because he could deliver, convince the older ones who are there, who are members of the House of Assembly, to vote him in as the speaker. The same thing with other areas that we have young people. They just not grab it. They work for it. And that, for me, merit should be the key word. It's not just about age. It's about merit and competence. That should be the key word. Thanks.
Yes, merit and competence for both old and young. Because if we're talking merit and competence, we are where we are now as a country because of the older people. So I need us to shatter that box where we box old people into a box of competence and young people into incompetence, because there are old people that are incompetent, there are young people that are incompetent. So let's leave that aside, because age does not equate competence, and we've seen it play time and time again.
Then look at when we talk maturity. Certainly, yes, like you said, competence has to do with some inherent abilities that one has. However, we are not in this state today because of old ones or young ones. We're here because it's a collective thing. The followers have been so submissive. They don't say anything. What is going on now? You talk about everything goes on. This about the federal level. There's so much money going to the state government, so much money going to the local government. But the young ones, what are they doing now? They're not rising up to the occasion. What stops them to be local government chairman? What stops them to move to the House of Assembly? What stops them to be senators? Nothing stops you. All you need to do, and you have the number there. The number is there. The young people are much more in larger number than with the older ones. But they have not been able to mobilize themselves, because even amongst themselves, they do not see those qualities that they see in the older ones. And that's why they will continue to vote for those older ones. And those older ones will continue to be in charge of the governance for as long as the young ones cannot unite. Ordinary elections of their student union, there is quarrel, there is fights over simple elections of student unions, and then you have a lot of mismanagement of their funds at that level. If you can do that at that student level, union level, how will you manage the state government or the local government? So they need to demonstrate more competence, that people, the young older ones, will not say, "Oh yes, this is time for us to let's relax, let them move." But amongst themselves, they need to get their peers to really support them and move. This is the time for them to come together. It's not for them to blame the older ones. If they come together, there's nowhere in Nigeria that they cannot take over the governance of that community. But that unity of purpose is just not there among the younger ones.
Okay, sorry. Mr. Cyprian, I think due to technical difficulties, you got cut off at some point.
I think it's a little bit stable now. I've heard the conversations, but
okay.
Maybe repeat the question that I'll be in a position to contribute to, because I've been in and out of the networking issues.
Okay. So we are discussing why young people are demanding more seats at the table in politics.
Why young people are not?
Are demanding more seats at the table.
Okay. As young people, we demand more seat at the table because first and foremost, we are in Africa, and we need to accept the fact that the biggest population in Africa is the younger generation. So we have our own demands, we have our own needs, we have our own stuff. But we will not let the older generations to keep on deciding on our own behalves. It's now the higher time for us to just go and say, we need to see our things are happening in this way. Because we are the majority, we are the population, we can do that. But what we need to do now is only building youth-adult partnership, because we cannot say that we are going alone without the adult. They have experience, they've been on the ground for quite some time, but that does not mean they have the power to decide on our issues. We can still decide on our own issues and how we want our things to be. But as we push for those things to happen the way we want them to be, we need to remember that we do what I said earlier, adult youth partnership. And if we success doing that, I'm sure we're going to address each and every problem that we are encountering and facing so far. So my call to my fellow young people most of the time will be, it's the higher time now to educate ourselves of the processes, for us to understand what are the processes and what it takes for us to be in those processes, and how do we mobilize ourselves and support those who are in those processes, to say that these are our representatives and they will be representing us in those civic spaces and other spaces. For instance, on my side here in Tanzania, we have pushed in different areas to make sure that we see young people, they are a part of those decision making. I understand it's not easy, it comes with challenge, but we kept on pushing. We organized ourselves, we educated ourselves, we capacity built, and we supported each other to make sure that our voice is not only heard, but it is meaningful heard, and we are integral processes moving forward.
Okay. Okay. Thank you so much for that. So I understand what everyone's saying. But nowadays, there's a misconception that the younger generation, the Gen Zs, are lazy, so they shouldn't be trusted with certain responsibilities. So I would like to hear your thoughts on that. Yeah.
Okay. Like you said, it's a misconception, right? Because laziness was not invented in 1997 when Gen Zs were born. Laziness has always been a thing. And I'd really like us to do away with stereotypes. I've met young people who are lazy. I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, young people are hardworking. I've met young people who are entitled and lazy. I've also met older people who are entitled and lazy. So I think it's a misconception that we need to do away with and treat people based off of their individual abilities. And let us know that young people can be hardworking, young people can be lazy, old people can be hardworking, old people can be lazy. The entire narrative of Gen Zs are lazy, young people are lazy is just a stereotype that has been used to deprive them of certain opportunities, of certain responsibilities, because they've not even tried them. And then there's already a misconception, oh, Gen Zs are lazy. Or someone can just do something at the workplace and be like, this is the problem I have with Gen Zs. That's just one person,
yeah.
right?
They're not lazy. I wouldn't say Gen Zs are lazy. It's not good to just stereotype, like she said. Laziness, the older ones are lazy, the young ones are lazy. But for me, I think a lot of the younger ones are very innovative, sincerely. And I've had to lean back, work with them closely. When I was in Society Family Health as deputy of party, I used a lot of them. And they are very wonderful, at least the ones I've met there. And all they need to do, right, sincerely, is to be able to build bridge of friendship. That partnership has to come. That hand holding will be there with the older ones. But at the same time, amongst themselves, they need to come together. They need to tell each other the truth. It's not just enough for somebody to think that because I'm Gen Z, so everything should always work out for me like that. No, everybody should just defer to me. At one time in my office, they told us, the Gen Z said they don't want to abide with the dress code. They don't want to come to work at 8 and close at 5. Once they finish their task, can they stay at home? There's so many things someone to have. No, you saw before you applied for this position, the rules were very clear, and you saw what the values and the core values of the organization is. So you have to abide by it. So I don't think stereotyping and telling them and all that's not a very nice. The prejudice around they are lazy. No, they are not lazy. I mean, majority of them are very hardworking. I've seen a lot of them. You go to a place even where you see the people, digital tech and all that. It's just the young ones. And we're learning from them. I learned a lot from my children. Sometimes I can't navigate one particular app and I call them. And they're like that, all of them. It's just for us to be patient as older ones for them to say, okay, they like to take their time. So if we have finished the task, they want to just have finished the task for the day and that's all. But we construed as being lazy because we are used to the fact that we go to work at 8, we close at 5, and we stay there and we multitask. And I don't want to talk about multitasking with the younger ones, but what I want to say is the fact that they are good at the tasks you are assigned and they do it. And when they finish, they want to just move on and do their own thing. But that life is not like that. Life revolves around the fact that you have to understand what happens in a system. And if you bring that bit of it into governance too, you'll see that what we want to see is that meetings in politics, meetings takes place in the night. So that's why somebody wants to go and watch a movie, wants to go and take popcorn, come and take this one. That's not what we want to do. You have to be there, sit at the table, and then they take decisions and you are part of it. But when you now stay laid back and say, let them take decisions, or they give you little money and you're satisfied with it, that's not good enough. But generally, they are not lazy. It's not a term to use for them. It's a term that I don't like to use at all.
Mm-hmm. I think we'll have like a different approach to work. Yeah. I'm just speaking now because you mentioned coming to work at 8, leaving at 5. Before the digital age, you needed those long hours to do what you needed to do. But now you don't need that long period of time to get the job done. And before COVID, the idea of remote work was weird to a lot of people. Like, what do you mean you're not coming to the office and you're working, you have a 9 to 5? But now there are a lot of offices, there are a lot of organizations that either work remote or hybrid. And you see that people are getting the job done. Gen Z's young people prioritize mental health. Now, this is an alien concept to most old people. And that is why sometimes when you are going through like some mental problem and you're trying to relate with your parents, they cannot relate. You are trying your best, but it's not their fault. It's not your fault. They just cannot see it. So I think it's not necessarily laziness. It's not even laziness. It's just a different approach to work. If I can get this job done in 2 hours and after 2 hours I am done, please, why do you still need me in the office? If you can pass this message with an email, please, why do I have to show up for a meeting? So I think it's just more about us saying the most important thing is let's get the job done, right? You want the job done, I will get it done. We don't have to follow the old method of doing things because times are evolving, things are changing. Even the technology, we are having someone is in Tanzania and this wasn't possible in the past. But yes, we need to get in tune with times that are changing.
I will say one thing. If you want to work for 2 hours, then you get paid for 2 hours. Because that's the truth. That's the truth of the old truth. If the work says 8 hours a day, and you're going to be paid, you're going to sign a timesheet that says 8 hours, then you have to work 8 hours. If you choose to work 2 hours, no problem. Finish your task in 2 hours, and then you get paid 2 hours work. That is fair. You have to be fair to your employer and fair to yourself too. So if that for me, that's what I think about that work. You don't have to stay at work and be browsing through the internet just to waste time. No. As you move on, you become I want to say the younger ones move from just operational level to strategic. Sure. And like our colleague from Kenya said, I mean, the only way you can move to strategic is to learn from the older ones and then do better than them. Bring some innovations. Don't just sit with the old thing. I mean, I just made a presentation yesterday. For 2 days, I was training people on that. And when I brought in some new, fresh perspective, I'll tell you they were all surprised. I said, see, I don't sit down because I say this is my age. I've retired. So I should I'm going for my PhD in public health. It's not because what will I do with it? I'm already tired collecting my money and then all that. I'm satisfied. I could sleep for any time I like. But you must never allow yourself to go down. The body is not meant for you to just sit like that. So the same way, if you say you finish your task in 2 hours, you just sit back, then you will make your brain, right? Then you are probably going to have the mental health issue you are not complaining you don't want to have. You will eventually have it because you probably come down with some dementia. If you're not working that brain must be worked. If you finish one task, think of another task, think of other things, look at other areas. And then for me, that is the way so that people will not. So when they say they are lazy, it's not that because they say they are lazy, but the fact that you finish one task and you say, oh, I'm through with it. No. Think of other things. When I worked in SFE on HIV, I was not in hepatitis, but I saw that there's opportunities. I moved in there. Non-communicable disease, I was there. And every time they wanted to call somebody to represent Society for Family Health, they called me because this is the man that had been to all these places. So don't just be satisfied with that your little corner. That your little corner is not going to take you anywhere. That's my own facts. The hard truth. It's a brutal fact. It will never take you anywhere. You need to move into other areas. And so moving other areas means that when you finish one task, what are those things they didn't even give you? Not tasks that you have not even assigned. Try and develop interest in them. And then nobody will say, oh, you are lazy. They'll say, this is the person to go to. If there's anything they want, is it digital? Is it this other one? This is the person. And that is where I want the younger ones to look at it. Not just be satisfied with that, their small space and then you're okay.
Okay. Okay. So now coming out of the workspace and going into politics now, how do we build, because you've both talked about how we have to work with the both generations in order for society to work. So how do we build trust between the two generations? Because we have to start from somewhere. So where do you think we should start from?
I think we need to listen to each other more. it's like a competition, and it shouldn't be so. It's supposed to be collaborative. We are co-creating. Let us know the why. Let's question the why of why we are trying to, work together. Are we just doing it to tick a box, or are we doing it because we genuinely believe that we are supposed to work together? That way we can now listen to each other, because right now we are not listening to each other. It's like we are warring sides, right? So we need to know, young people, what was really the problem, right? Older people, what have you done? What experience do you have that we need to learn from? Because we must be honest, it's not all experience that is useful, not because it's not good, but because times have changed and some have become redundant, right? So I think we just need to meet and understand why we are collaborating in the first place. Once the why is questioned and we now understand why we are doing this thing, then we can approach it with a fresh perspective. So it's not just an old versus new, old school versus new school kind of war, but we are working together, we're co-creating, we're collaborating. It's not a competition.
Okay. Thank you for that, Mr. Shane.
Yes, I agree with you. There's no competition there. However, there's something that the younger ones need to do. Can they bring themselves together? Not stay on the sideline and just be commenting on the social media about governance. Can we get them in there? We have the parties, the APC, the PDP, Labour Party, and all those parties. Can we get the young ones register as card-carrying members? Once you are card-carrying members, then they see your population in those parties. Once the older ones see that the larger population of the majority of those people in that party are the young ones, then the next step is this, is to make sure that what are those fresh ideas that you want to bring in? Is there the way of doing things that you now bring on board and provide evidence and say, this thing can work? Can we try it this way? Instead of having, I've seen it, like she said, when we had the COVID, we had commissioning of projects virtually. So must we all go to one center to vote? Can we do something virtual? Can the young people put something together that we have a database of all the members of a political party, and then they come in and say, okay, this is it. And it's very transparent. Everybody can log in and all that. So put something down, start with those little things, as little as that. Then they not say, oh, this is new, this is nice, it's refreshing. Then bring new ideas. Are there better ways of us winning these elections rather than spending money? The best way to win election is by doing good. Pull the community together. The young ones have the energy. Can they fix a bridge in one community? Once they fix a bridge in one community, the older ones, oh, so these people can actually do it. We have engineers among the young ones. We have civil engineers, so many people, they are architects and all that. Young people. My house, I have 3 of them. So can they come together, do something? Let us see what they are doing. When we know that they can actually hands-on, not just writing on social media, putting one blog and all that, and just criticizing. All you do is criticize the old ones. But do something different. Can there be volunteers, go on medical outreach to one community? The young ones do that one. Once we see those ones, the older ones see this, they say, oh, these people, this is a different way of doing things. And then you see, then that trust will come. But it will never come for as long as the older ones feel that all you do is criticize them. Oh, we're in this situation because of the older ones. Or then what are you doing? You yourself, that they are young. You stay in your own little corner and all you do is right, and criticize. Do something. Let's see you come on board. Aspire to be a local government chair, aspire to be House of Rep. Look at that young woman from one of the North Central. She's doing well. And there are so many people like that there. There are many children of El-Rufai in the House of Rep. You have that of there. So why can't we get more younger people there? The way to get them there is for them to hands-on. Let them do something that the older ones cannot fault. They'll say, oh, this is nice. Once you have done, that's the only way you can build trust. Practical, not rhetorics and all those blogs and all that. For me, that is where I feel the young ones. And the young ones can really do a lot. All they need to do is that the strength, the number, they pull themselves together. No older one can challenge them. All we do is just say, okay, can we just find a space for us too? So it will find a space for the older ones by the time the young ones come together. To not just be they're asking us find space for the young ones. No, they're already there. So we are not okay. We have this wisdom. We can guide you this way. So let us be here, and then to be negotiation. Simple. But the first step is that they need to be seen to do something, not just lay back and criticize.
Just to add to that, I think I agree with him. Young people, we also need to fix our mentality. Right now, we are used mostly as tools. I'll give an example. I was at the, House of Rep for, it's not a public hearing, but it was a meeting of young people to speak on the budget, right? The speaker came, addressed young people in like 5 minutes, and he was done. And he left. Now, this was supposed to be a dialogue. I expected that young people present would speak, that you called us here to have a conversation, you've spoken to us, and you've left. But there were young groups that came with awards to give to the speaker. Now, this is the mentality that now it's a general problem. We are seeing something that we are not okay with, but a lot of young people are agitating to get there just to become that same thing. So it's like a stepping stone to go and become the problem. So I think we actually need to do more. We're doing a lot, but we still need to do more. We need to understand that this is not an opportunity to get into place of power, to not become the oppressed. The idea is to stop oppression in all forms. So young people generally, I think this is something we need to sit and ponder on. We need a mentality shift. If you're looking for trying to make things better, we should actually think, how are we contributing right now? Are we preparing ourselves to be used as tools, or are we just waiting to become the same thing that we criticize?
So I want to bring up a social media movement that turned into a movement in person as well, which is the EndSARS movement. So that was a social media movement that talked about ending the way SARS was harassing young people on the streets. And it got to a point when where they decided that a protest was needed for not the older generation, but for more people to hear about it. So what do you think about a movement like that?
That movement, when they started a movement, they got the support of virtually all Nigerians. Mm-hmm. Because then the SARS, in all fairness, they were not, they were very notorious. They were just all over the place, harassing people, checking people's phones, intruding on people's privacies. Not just the young ones, virtually everybody. But of course, why they targeted the younger ones was probably their mode of dressing. So they see them, the guys have dreadlocks, and they feel, if he has dreadlocks, he must be into crime. That does not mean that. My dress code has absolutely nothing to do with my character. It has absolutely nothing to do with what I would, with anything. But the fact is that is how their orientation is. And the movement started well. However, they lost focus. And where they lost focus was when they decided that the protest should be in only Abuja and Lagos. And when they went to Lagos, they targeted the newly constructed toll gates. And they were there obstructing traffic. You can have a protest. Nothing wrong with a protest. It's absolutely all right. However, you can't obstruct other people from moving around. They did that in Abuja too, and Lagos. So if it was a movement that was for EndSARS, it should have been all over. They should have mobilized for it to take place in 36 plus 1 states. But it was restricted to only those 2. And by the time it was ready to do, some politicians who were not happy with the government of the day infiltrated there. And money was moving, they were contributing money, and it was obvious that the way it was going, it was gone beyond just a protest against the brutality of SARS. It was more of let's attack the government of the day. And of course, also what happened there, there are denials over whether people died in the toll gates, whether they died or they were shot or not. All those, nobody, neither here nor there, because nobody's really sure. Now, some people, like somebody said, nobody has come out to say, my daughter died or my son died. People were detained there. The truth of the matter is that there are no evidences to provide for that. But I think it was a good movement For me, mobilizing against those that sort of act was very good. And we can do that same thing, the same thing that the youth did, mobilizing like that. They can use it for good governance. So for good governance, right now, as I'm talking to you, all the state governors and the local government chairmen are receiving 3 times what they got during Buhari's regime. But none of the youths have stood up to say, what are the governors of my state doing with the funds? What they are concerned about is federal government. Oh, Tinubu has not done that. Tinubu has done this. Tinubu is this. Tinubu is this. Your state governors, they are not doing anything. In Lagos State, we saw on the social media about local government chairmen who build schools, those who built a stadium, who built so many things. What are the other local government chairmen doing? 774 local governments, nothing. Very few. All they do is collect money at the end of the month, and the state governors, and everybody goes to sleep. And the youths who are there, this is a way to mobilize. Mobilize against bad governance at the state level and local government level. Just same way you deal with the NSAS. Not just do something and then they party. I mean, if you saw what was happening, there was partying at those sites where they're having the protest. But for me, using the social media, use it for good governance. And you can use it for good governance by asking for accountability, voice and accountability. What are they doing with the funds the federal government is giving to those states? Recently now, the president has announced that they are going to give 3 billion to each state governor as intervention funds. Have the youths pooled their resources together? Have they come together, form a coalition to say, we want to know what we are going to use this 3 billion for? Nobody is talking. So that movement should be used, right, to promote good governance, not just to destroy things or to use it for and allow some politicians to hijack it and then nothing will achieve at the end of the day.
I think the NSAS was a really great movement. It was a spur of the moment, and that's why it looked like it was not organized in quotes, but it was actually organized, and it happened in more than 2 states. I know it happened in Port Harcourt. I know it happened in Kogi. It happened in Abuja. It happened in Lagos. Given the time they had, it was just a spur of the moment, and I saw mobilization in a way that I'd never seen before. There were a team of lawyers. There were a team of doctors. I remember when they started blocking donations because the government said it was a terrorist organization. They started donating in cryptocurrencies. Given that short time, the organization that those young people were able to come up with in that little time, where they'll say, oh, this person has been arrested. The team of lawyers are contacted and they are working on it immediately. There was emergency care. It just goes to show that if young people are given opportunity, they can actually do things. It's unfortunate how it ended, and I really don't want to go into whether people died or whether people did not die. It's a really sensitive topic, and I wouldn't want to go into that. But the response of the government at the time showed that they felt threatened by what happened. And unfortunately, that campaign, that movement would have bettered a new kind of mindset for young people. But for some people, that was the day the hope for a better Nigeria died.
Yes.
That was the day a lot of people gave up on Nigeria. That was the day some people decided, you know what, this country is not worth dying for. Before then, people were willing to put their life on the line. When the whole thing happened, people were at the toll gate, right? People were willing to sacrifice. People gave up their jobs. There are people till date that are still suffering because of what happened then. So after then, there were people that left. They left the country and be like, you know what? Good luck to the rest of you, right? It was a great movement, but unfortunately, what happened. But I would always have great respect for people who participate. I was in school at the time, so I couldn't participate. But for people who participated, I'll always have great respect for them because they put their lives on the line. They saw a problem and they came together to look for a solution. Unfortunately, things happened the way it happened, but I'll always have respect for the people who participated.
Okay. So we've given various examples of leadership and how it looks in society. So my final question to the both of you would be, does leadership inherently require a formal position or a title for it to be important?
If you look at what we have, look at the Constitution of Nigeria. But since we're talking about governance, when it comes to governance, there must certainly there's title. It comes with title. You have the president, you have governors and all that ones there, ministers and all that. So when it comes to governance, particularly public governance, it means that you need to have that title there. Like even at the private sector, you do have titles there. So you have the CEO or the country director, or the managing director and all that comes with it. However, we have people who, without having any title, they'll be able to mobilize their community to do good. For me, the title is okay. I mean, for formal structure, but the informal structure, it is doing good. And my philosophy when I become a Rotarian is use what you have, get people. If you can mobilize people, even if you are not a member of the House of Rep, you are not a senator, you are not a governor or local government chairman, can you actually move people, mobilize people to achieve good for your community? That for me is leadership. And leadership is not about you saying there at the front, okay, all of you move on, I'm behind you. No, you have to be at the forefront and then build people, mentor and coach. Because I mean, like I always tell my friends, the only person that a child knows that is not competing with him or her is the father. So as a father, you don't compete with your child. You want your child to be better than you. So a leader should have that sort of focus too, that those who are my followers, they should be better than me. They should move beyond where I was. And so for me, much of the structure is there, but we have people who need to make things happen. Like you said, people mobilize for the answers. We didn't know them. They are faceless, but you're able to mobilize. But can we mobilize people like that? Get leaders who are selfless, who are not thinking about what is in it for me. Because most things now is what is in it for me. You go in there and you say, what's in it? If it's nothing for you, you can't be bothered. But let's be selfless. And you have selfless leaders. And so we can actually have selfless leaders who do not hold those titles, those formal titles, and they may make a lot of impacts. And for me, that's what I think the young ones should do. They should not wait, even if you are not elected as a member of the Rep or of the National Assembly or the State House Assembly or any of those political structures. Can you do something in your community that the people now get to understand? And you see a lot of young people are excelling in various areas. So for me, that's how to go about it. So we don't, formal structure, yes, but then please do something for your community. And so that at the end, when you are gone and dead, they would say, what will they want to remember you for? So that is one thing. What's the legacy you left? What are the footprints in the sand of time? Those are the things for me that are very important for every individual beyond holding one formal title. Thank you.
Thank you.
I would say in governance, yes, titles are important because, for example, I was in my state a few weeks ago and I was really disappointed at the state of things, but there's only so much I can do. I'm not the state governor. But outside of governance, I don't think titles are that important for leadership. Given the influencer economy we have now, you just need to be able to influence people. Like going back to the NSAS, people who mobilized are not government officials. They don't hold titles. For example, Fowles was a very key person in organizing that movement. He doesn't hold any title aside from being a creator and an artist, right? So I think leadership outside of governance is basically influence. The moment you can get people to do something or you can influence people to do something, that is leadership.
Okay, thank you so much. So I would like to, what are your final thoughts? What do you want people to know about youth leadership, about how youths need to be let into these spaces more often? Any final thoughts?
Okay, I'm just going to say young people belong on the table. It's not a privilege, it's a right. Mm-hmm. They deserve to be there, and the time has come for both young people and old people to meet in the middle and just find a solution to the problem, because we cannot continue to compete.
Okay. So, any thoughts on how the older generation should work with the younger generation?
Oh, the older generation is more tolerant of the younger ones. I'm very patient with them. Why the younger ones should be exemplary and transparent.
Okay, so thank you so much for agreeing to appear on the podcast today. Thank you for tuning in. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe. Bye. Shout out to Frontline 8 and Y Plus Global for collaborating with us on this podcast. Thank you for your support.